Hello and welcome, this is Song, and today is a great day for anyone who's on Apple Silicon Macs, because if you are using Blender, and I personally love Blender, we are in luck because today the official patch for using the native version of Cycles Apple Metal device support is finally here. So first things first, how do we get the Blender that will render with the GPU? Now, as you can see, we go to this thread, and here we can link to Blender builds. And Blender builds, by the way, you can just download builds and go there manually if you want. And we scroll down and get the Blender Alpha, Apple Silicon 3.1.0. Download that, install it. As you can see, I have the 3.0, 3.1 Alpha. Run this, obviously, and you're pretty much ready to go. As you can see, Blender is version 3.1.0. Now, as far as specs of my machine go, I have the basic 14-inch MacBook Pro on M1Pro with 8-core CPU and 14-core GPU, just so you know. So you can compare your results and speedups based on your machine and specs. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the actual Blender scene. As you can see, I have not a lot of going on. I have the default cube. I have the plane with noise-based texture through a color ramp on the roughness, which has the metallic value of 1, so we can have a lot of reflections. I have the quad lights. I have the sphere. I have the cube, and the cube is interesting because it has the metallicness of 1 as well, and it also has the bevel shader into the normal. And this is important because I remember when optics was being built for the CUDA implementation of Blender speedups, it did not have bevel for half a year, maybe a year. Anyway, so the point is the bevel shader was not rendering. However, in this version, it does render. Anyway, that's a little bit of a long introduction. So finally, how do we enable this? We go to the Edit Preferences, and we go to the System, Cycles Render Devices, and from now on, we press Metal, enable both of these tick boxes for GPU and CPU, and just close it down and it will work. So first, I'll show you the results using the feature set supported device, which is CPU. Keep in mind, if you are trying to render this in viewport and do node setup, previews, and it will crash, because right now it's, well, for the lack of a better word, it's crash happy. Anyway, so I press the F12 and let's see how much time it will take to render. As you can see, the noise threshold is 0.01, the samples is 128. Not to spend way too much time rendering, just to showcase it. And from the previous test, as you can see, it will take roughly 25 seconds. Okay, we're almost done. We have like 100, 128. Yep, 25.7. All right, so let's go to slot number 3, and here I will change to experimental GPU compute. And since it's very alpha, if you just look at it funny, it will crash. So I'll just change completely nothing and press F12 once again. By the way, if you're running it for the first time, it will have to compute the shaders and any other necessary instructions for it to work. So if it takes like half a minute to compute, it's not a problem, you're fine. Anyway, we're already done, and it takes virtually exactly 10 seconds. Okay, so now 25 seconds version 10 seconds versus 10 seconds. I think this is a very good result. Now, the interesting part about this particular kind of result is that first, as you can see, we actually do have the bevel shader rendered, even on GPU. We have noise-based roughness on the metallic surface, And I'm saying this because it's actually important. Usually all this stuff does not work on first iterations of GPU implementations of any render that you see. Something usually does not work, and a lot of things does not work. However, here, as you can see, it seems to be working just fine. So next up, let's see how much time it will take to render the subsurface. As you can see, I enabled the subsurface to 1, the color to red, and let's just crank down samples a little bit because I'm not sure how much time it will take to render just on the CPU version. So let's see. Yeah, this is very not fast. Okay, so it says like it will take roughly 35 seconds more, just for the sake of the purity of this for science. We'll wait and see how much more time. By the way, interestingly enough, apparently I forgot to turn off the bevels, so this has kind of like an interesting effect. And as you can see, you know, it's rendering, but again, this is just to support it, just the CPU version. By the way, my laptop is a little bit warm and there is no noise whatsoever. However, in the activity monitor, we can see that it was using 700% of the CPU, which means it was running full blast on 7 cores. Okay, let's go to the experimental, enable GPU compute, press F12, and see where this gets us. Again, let's check out the activities monitor. Okay, it uses about 6 cores on full blast. And we are done. Okay, so again, let's see. Here we have 50 seconds. And here we have 18 seconds. So basically about 2.7 times faster. And again, the visual parity is indistinguishable. As you can see, it looks the same. Again, the bevel works. The subsurface looks the same. Everything works just fine. So almost 3 times faster. This is amazing. Again, the current implementation problem is that, you know, you cannot use this in the viewport. It will crash. However, just for rendering purposes, and I know it will be fixed, so 3.1 is looking really impressive. I cannot wait to build my shaders in the viewport using the GPU from my M1Pro, and hopefully you're as excited as I am. I know I am. And by the way, I will be doing the full review of Blender on M1Pro in next videos, so if you want to see that, just don't remember to subscribe not to miss the videos. And I will talk about Houdini and Unreal Engine as well, so see you next videos. Have a nice day and goodbye.